welcome children to another Bible story time that we can share together. Do you remember last week we learned how Jesus can do something that is impossible for us to do? He raised a dead man to life, his friend Lazarus. In the Bible we hear of Jesus raising someone else to life as well, and it was a little girl. Her dad was called Jairus, and for the sake of our story, we're going to call the little girl Becky. Jeff is going to read that story to you now.
Becky was a happy little girl. She had lots of friends and they used to come around to play each day after school. Her mummy and daddy loved her very much, and so did the servants who looked after the house. One day, Becky was playing with her friends when she suddenly felt sick. Her head started thumping and her legs felt like jelly. "Sorry," she said to her friends. "I'll have to go inside. See you tomorrow if I'm better." But the trouble was, Becky did not get better. She felt worse and worse, and nothing the doctors gave her made her feel better at all. In fact, she was so sick that her parents were afraid she was going to die. One day, as he sat by her bedside, her father Jairus thought to himself, "I wonder if that prophet I've heard about could help Becky. They say he makes people better. Now, what's his name? Yes, Jesus is what they call him. It's worth a try." So Jairus set out to find Jesus. As usual, Jesus was out talking to people, dropping a kind word to an old lady, telling off a young man for being naughty, and comforting and curing people who were handicapped or sick. Jairus stood near Jesus and waited his turn to speak. Just as Jesus turned to Jairus, one of the servants ran up. With tears in his eyes, he said to Jairus, "I've come to tell you that Becky has died. There's no need to bother Jesus now." But Jesus overheard what the man had said and replied, "Don't worry, just have faith and your daughter will be well again. Please take me to her." In spite of the comforting words Jesus spoke, it was a sad little group that set off to Jairus' house. They had seen Jesus make people better, but Becky was dead. The journey was a waste of time, they thought. Back at the house, a big crowd of friends and relatives had gathered. Everybody loved Becky, and they were all very sad when they heard she had died. There were people playing sad tunes on musical instruments because that is what they did in those days. When Jesus saw the crowd, he said, "Don't cry. Becky is not dead. She's sleeping." Well, they all knew the difference between someone who is sleeping and someone who is dead. They all started to laugh at Jesus. What a silly thing to say. Jesus told the crowd to go home and allowed only Becky's parents and his own special friends, Peter, John, and James, to go into the room where she lay. Jesus took Becky's hand and said to her, "Little girl, get up." And, would you believe it, Becky did get up. She was alive and well before their very eyes. When the people in the room had finished hugging each other and jumping up and down, Jesus said to them, "Becky must be starving. Get her some food." And he made them all promise solemnly that they would not say a word to anyone.
Thank you, Jeff, for reading that story to us. It is a wonderful story, isn't it? And isn't it great that Jesus can raise people from the dead and that he is the Son of God? Looking forward to seeing you all again next week. Bye-bye for now.